This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. This is Mayor Steve Noble, a member of the Kingston Police Commission. We're going to get started in just a moment. We're going to let folks sign on for another minute. If everyone can just make sure that you mute yourself, that would be great. And again, we'll get started in just a minute. All right, I think we're going to get started this evening. Again, my name is Mayor Steve Noble, and I am president or chair of the Kingston Police Commission. I want to start with just a little bit of housekeeping before we officially kick off tonight's public virtual meeting. First, I'd ask that everyone remain on mute until either you are called on to speak, or if you offer to speak during the open session. As part of this public forum, we want folks to make sure that we remain respectful to each other, and also to just remind everyone that this will be recorded and posted on the City of Kingston website for folks to be able to watch at a later time. With tonight's meeting, it is being hosted by the Police Commission of the City of Kingston. The Police Commission is a commission that is made up of Kingston residents whose job is to advise and create policy, as well as hire and discipline the members of the Kingston Police Department. It's a relatively unique body where we put the hands of the Kingston Police Department into our residents here in the City of Kingston, and this is all done via the City of Kingston Charter. We have a number of our commission members present with us tonight, and so I would just ask if our commission members could introduce themselves. And when you speak, if you could also just restate your name, it just will be easier for everyone to, because here not everyone is connected via the computer, so they may be on the phone. So again, Mayor Steve Noble here, member of the Police Commission. Minya, do you want to go next?
Yeah, Minya DeJohnette, member of the Police Commission.
Reverend Kendra Van Houten, member of the Police Commission.
Brad Jordan, member of the Police Commission.
Shaniqua Bowden here. I'm the newest member of the Police Commission. Hi, everyone.
Shaniqua, thanks for joining us, and this is your first official event with us, so welcome on board. We're excited to have you, and I want to thank all of the commission members for helping to bring this together, and for everyone in the community I want to just get started with just a little bit of background about why we called this meeting and what kind of brought us to tonight. In early August, the City of Kingston Police Department, along with my office and the District Attorney's Office, the Ulster County Sheriff's Office, the New York State Police, and a variety of other partners, came together to create an initiative where we would bring additional law enforcement partners into the City of Kingston, in particular, looking to reduce the violent crime related to guns and illegal drugs that for the past 6 to 8 months has made it, a feeling of not being safe, much more prevalent in our community than it ever had been before. And so in bringing together this initiative, it is consisting of a number of state police road patrols that are very public, as well as those from the Ulster County Sheriff's Department, and a variety of, behind the scenes, undercover, partnerships to, do more of the undercover work that's necessary in this area of law enforcement. This initiative, as designed, as was discussed in our, rollout in early August, was to last about 10 weeks. This similar program was run in the city of Newburgh earlier this year, and had, really positive results in reducing the amount of gun violence in Newburgh quite drastically, and that has continued to this day. Since it ended in May. And so with that, we worked to bring that initiative and that concept here to Kingston. And so we recognize that over the last 4 weeks in particular, there has been an increase in police presence here in our community. And we know that that has had lots of people, impacted by that. And there are questions and concerns that have been raised about the increase in police presence. And so tonight, we wanted to be able to hear from the community, to be able to have folks have an opportunity to discuss this initiative and how it's been working here in the city of Kingston. At no point tonight is there, going to be any decision made about, expanding this initiative or ending this initiative. As we committed to do it, but again, we can always do things better, and so we're really interested in on call and you haven't muted yourself, that would be great if you could do that. If not, we may have to mute you for you, just so that everyone can hear. And so, with that, what I'm going to do is also now just discuss kind of the format of this evening. There are a couple of folks who have reached out to us to, want to tell us their story. And then we're going to have an open forum. We'd ask that, you do choose. But we ask that you keep the limits to about 2 or so. So that we can make sure that we give everyone that wants to speak a chance to do that. We as police commission members are not going to be able to respond to every single kind of question or every kind of situation. But we would just encourage folks that if there is more detailed follow-up that's needed, that we have a website at kingston-ny.gov/police commission, where you can find out how to contact us all individually, as well as email the police commission, as well as submit any potential complaints that you may have that could provide more detailed information for, that, is part of your situation. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to turn it over to Mia, one of our commissioners, who's going to go ahead and take us through the next part of our program. And again, if I missed anything, commissioners, everything in the beginning.
578-080.
Stop killing people.
Um,
Stop the police state.
Hold on. We need
Stop
people
the
to mute
racist
themselves.
murders.
We need
No
people
Trump,
to
no
mute themselves. So
KKK.
I'm going to mute everyone.
Stop the police.
All right. Okay. So now this is. I'm not sure what to do here. Can anybody hear me? Okay. So I've muted everybody because there's no way we're going to be able to carry on the meeting if everybody's talking over each other. As Mayor Noble has said, that this meeting was brought about because people in the community that are actually experiencing the policing right now have serious issues with that policing and the way it's being carried out, and they need to be heard. If there are people out there that are happy with the way this is going, we've heard from you as well, but we also have to listen to the people who are experiencing it firsthand. If you have to be able to take into account what has been happening the last few months and the history alongside that in this country. When you bring an extra police presence into the community of people who are already terrified given the past few months that we've had, you are going to bring in a certain amount of fear and terror to that community. And so if that community is coming to us and saying this is traumatizing us or terrifying us, we have to listen to them as well. And so that is what this forum is for. And we appreciate the people that have written in and support as well. But we also have a lot of people that would like to have their voices heard. And we have a couple of people that requested to tell their personal stories that we have, because they approached us before this meeting, have allowed to give them space to tell their stories first. We will allow space to just read some of the comments that we've read. And since I'm speaking now, I'll read them. I'm going to start with a couple of lists of people who have actually reached out and said personally their experience so far and what they would have preferred that experience to go. And so I'm just going to read down that list, and then I will pass it on to the next commissioner where they can read their comments that they've received as well. So in the first part of my list, I have there's no need for so many backup cars on a routine traffic stop. It makes it look more like a gun or drug bust than a routine traffic stop. Please do not ask passengers IDs unless legally warranted. Please do not have everyone get out of a vehicle on a routine stop. There's a small story here that somebody said where they were pulled over and they were—
Very good. Okay, well, you guys are doing that.
Sorry, can you still hear me? Okay. So the next one was just about profiling, where somebody was pulled over for a tint incident and somebody who was Caucasian was nearby at the same time, and they were not ticketed for the same issue. The next one is to be mindful if there are children in the car, to not pull them out of the car and to be mindful of their terror or fear during that stop. The request is not to press questions about guns. Asking is one thing, intimidation is too much. And I'm reading this out. So not for nothing, if they're really interested in bridging a gap, being a little nicer goes a long way. Of course, we want them to do their job. We need them to give more respect in the process. It will not hurt to say sorry for any inconvenience this may have caused. We are working to try and stop the shootings in Kingston, etc. Give an explanation, but make the community feel it's for their safety as well. Explain why you're making the stop, then ask for license or registration. People are saying the cops are finding reasons for stops afterwards, and they have gone too far. The majority of stops are Black and female. Do not violate their rights if it's clear that they are being violated. And please do not use eye contact as a reason to harass or stop a person. And with that, I will pass it on to the next commissioner.
When is there going to be an opportunity for public comment?
So we're going to do the open public comments in a few minutes. But I think, as Minnie mentioned, there are a couple of folks who have reached out already that from the community that we're going to give them an opportunity to speak. And then we're going to open it up to the other callers. And
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So Minnie, do you want to call on the first person?
Sure, I'll call Pastor Kendra. Oh, no, I'm sorry. There's other people that wanted to speak. So before we went ahead with calling people.
I think Shaniqua had some comments or feedback she was going to share.
All right, I received a letter from the YMCA Farm Project, from the youth at the YMCA Farm Project. And this letter is addressed to Dear Police Commission. Enclosed are several letters and an anti-racist statement written by the Kingston YMCA Farm Project youth. There is a letter addressed to Mayor Noble and Chief Tinty, written in response to a meeting held with them earlier this month at the YMCA Farm Project. This meeting was to address and discuss an incident that took place with a Kingston Police Department officer and the Kingston YMCA Farm Project staff in front of the youth regarding a project they were working on in the community of Schwenk Drive. In addition to the letter that the mayor and Chief Tinty received, we also sent them the letters the youth wrote to the superintendent and the school board regarding their experiences with school SROs, the school resource officers. We believe these letters are important for the police commission to read, as it is your duty to make decisions regarding practices, procedures, and policies that the Kingston Police Department are expected to uphold. We appreciate you taking the time to read these letters and the anti-racist statement crafted by the youth. After reading the book stamped, okay, I'm not sure which letter I should read first. There are several ones here. There's a letter addressed to Mayor Noble and Chief Tinty, and then there's one about some of the anti-racist work that they've been doing that they'd like to see furthered in our community. Dear Mayor Noble and Chief Tinty, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come to talk to us earlier this month. However, by the end of the meeting, most of us felt as if our questions and concerns were not properly answered. We wish you would have spent more time listening to us rather than justifying the police's actions. It felt like you were all defending yourselves instead of validating our feelings and experiences. You said you weren't trying to make excuses, but we couldn't help but to feel like you were. Chief Tinty said that 50 out of 70 cops are quote unquote good, which left us very concerned about the other 20. There shouldn't be that many not good.
Our researchers, our historians, we have no right to speak. That's what we're doing. I have a right to speak because I listen to them. You have a right to speak because
Sorry, Shaniqua.
Oh, okay. Yes, there will be public comment in just a moment. As of right now, I'm reading a letter from the youth at the YMCA Farm Project. All right, and so I will continue. Chief Tinty said 50 out of 70 cops are good, which left us concerned about the other 20. There shouldn't be that many not good cops in our community, not to mention most of the police force do not live here in Kingston. Therefore, they're not familiar with the people that live here. and we believe that there are a lot of adjustments that need to be made to the KPD. We hope that you will listen to our community members and adopt a confident attitude towards creating the real change we need to unite us all. We have some follow-up questions we would like to ask. How have you shown our committed to excellence suggestions with your police department? What else have you done towards racial justice and police accountability after meeting with us? And have any of the police officers done volunteer work without uniform in the community? Along with this letter, we have sent a few items. First, we would like to look over our anti-racist statement. This statement is used to share what we experienced and practices we want to follow in terms of living an anti-racist life. Next, we ask that you look over the letters that we wrote to Dr. Palladino and the school board regarding SROs in our schools. They include our opinions and direct experiences with SROs. Considering these are your officers in our schools, we believe you need to read them. We would also like to ask about the $400,000 that goes into having SROs at our schools. What will happen with those funds if our schools are taken, if our learning is taken part remotely? And finally, we have enclosed a copy of the book Stamped, which we read over the summer on the history of racism and anti-racism. We ask that both of you read this book, as it is an essay read and contains so much information about racism in our country and how racism still exists and impacts us all today. We know you could learn a lot by reading it, and hopefully it even gets put in the anti-racist training police officers undergo. We thank you for taking the time to hear our concerns and receive our recommendations given in good faith. We hope to hear your feedback. Any questions, concerns, or responses can be sent to Susan at the Kingston YMCAFarmProject.org. And that's all I have. I would pass it on to the next commissioner.
I mean, I'll jump in here if it's okay, 'cause I think, I'm not sure where we're going, but I think the mayor actually spoke to it already, but for somehow it got out that what the meeting was about was just continuing, and really it's I saw Lester on before, I think he's still on and he was gonna help us, but it's more all of us, the stakeholders within law enforcement and the community working together. And really, the reason for the meeting was to address the concerns of the citizens living in the communities that were experiencing the increased policing. So hopefully tonight, and today, a lot of us received phone calls in support of the policing. I'm sure I know I received several, as did the other commissioners. And that's really, it's as the mayor spoke about, this meeting was to hear the concerns of the people that live in those areas and some of the events that they experienced, and see if there's something that should be done differently. So I think that's where we're going to go with the meeting from this point, to hear some feedback from the people that live in those areas.
Me.
And so I think we're about ready to open up the public comment. And I just want to explain to folks exactly how we're going to do that. And so if you've joined us via computer, you have probably seen the chat feature up in the upper right-hand side of your screen. I see some people have already and are using the chat feature already. If you are interested in making a public comment, you know,
Behind them.
via voice,
Protest.
you can.
Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
if you're able to see the chat box on the upper right-hand side of your screen, if you would like to make a kind of a public chat, via voice, you can indicate that, and we'll then call on you in that order. If you, once we get through those, if you've been joined by the phone,
We have to keep
as a caller, we'll go ahead and then get to the callers. I would
But
ask.
right now, I mean, look at Portland. 100 days and giving up those people. We haven't gotten to that point right now. But we're in the streets. So now,
So in order to give everybody a
even with
chance,
the police state,
we're going to go ahead
we're
and
going
try
to bring
to
up
go through the
Ishmael
callers.
Staff.
If folks aren't going to be able to respect each other and not talk over one another or wait to be called on, we'll have to, we're not going to be able to continue this, right? And so we're going to go ahead and go through, I think, the chat feature now, and then we'll call out folks. And so
It was about police brutality, about, the
Okay, now I can't hear anything.
All right, sorry, just a moment of technical difficulties.
which,
Hold on. Sorry.
which I don't see it.
So one of the things that I think the first person that here is Michael Montella. You were the first, I think, to go in there. So Michael, if you want to go first, that would be great. And again, if folks could keep their comments to less than 2 minutes, that would be great.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to put together this this forum. I would like,
if they smell weed, is that what you're supposed to do? I asked them, do they go up in their community and do that? Okay, smoke weed everywhere.
Especially white people.
That's an issue. Don't see the last stop they had, they found somebody with something.
am I being recognized or what's going on?
Yes, you are. There's some other folks that are unmuting themselves, but yes, you go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to thank you for putting this together. I'm really disappointed. I'm a resident currently of Uptown, but moving very shortly further closer to Midtown. I'm very disappointed considering the events nationwide over the past several months since the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officers and the national uprising that's going on and the call for police reform, that what we're seeing now in Kingston is essentially a stop and frisk.
But I helped clean it up with other board members, and we continue to work clean.
Am I still recognized? I'd like to try and get my statement out. What we're seeing is a stop and frisk policy that's very disturbing.
Pigs because they're beating up kids, and I suggest to everybody to start bringing their cameras out and video it and send it to me because I'm not afraid to put it in there.
Y'all just tell him he's speaking. He may not know.
Okay.
He's not supposed to be speaking.
Yeah. So again, as I said, we're seeing a stop and frisk policy, what it really amounts to. And this is unconstitutional. It's really troubling for me that the city is going down this path. I've been in discussions with Attorney Michael Sussman, and this end of this week, we're going to be looking at the legality of what's going on with this policy in Kingston, where the state police are riding with Kingston police officers and pulling people over randomly for all sorts of things and searching their cars. I witnessed one of these episodes on Albany Avenue and videotaped it and talked extensively to the state trooper that was making the arrest. So I really am disappointed that this is the thing that's going on. I'd like to see it remedied. I'd like to see it stopped. And I'd like to take a hard look at what we really need to do to change the model of public safety that we have in the city of Kingston. Again, I believe it's unconstitutional. Michael Sussman believes it's unconstitutional. And I'd like to see cooperation in moving forward without having to get things much more complicated than they already are. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Stephanie Allensung? Stephanie, you'll just have to unmute yourself, unless we can find you on here.
I'm unmuted, sorry. My service is not so great. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in as a resident of Ward 4 that so I've witnessed one of these stops myself. It was one of my neighbors. I was actually driving to go pick up my kiddo from school, and my neighbor was pulled over for supposedly having tinted windows. And then of course, their car was searched. And like, folks don't have to consent to searches. And as someone who has had interaction with the cops, like, my instinct is always just to say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, because like, you don't know what's going to happen if you escalate by resisting. And so, sure, we have rights as citizens to not have our cars and our vehicles searched. At the same time, the safest thing that we're constantly told is to do what the cop says. So my two neighbors, femme-bodied people, taken out of their cars and had their car searched, and a roach was found, and they got written up for a roach in their car. Now, if we want to talk about drugs and we want to talk about weed, it's like, are we really out here trying to write tickets for people having roaches, for people smoking weed? Because I can tell you, there are plenty of people, plenty of white folks who smoke weed in this town that do not live in Ward 4 that are also driving cars with tinted windows, right? Like, let's talk about that. And so, I understand that y'all are trying to like figure out how to quote unquote stop the violence, stop the gun violence. And we know for a fact that gun violence is not caused by the color of people's skin. It's caused by the trappings of poverty, which are a lack of resources being funneled into communities. It's underfunded schools. It's a lack of access to jobs. We know this. So like, why aren't we putting those resources into resourcing our community and not to resourcing the police state? That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Rosemary Quinn?
Can you hear me, Mayor Noble? Do you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Can you guys hear me? Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for holding this forum. I really appreciate having a chance to express and share with you some of the things that I've experienced as a Ward 4 resident. First and foremost, I really want to say this. I think it's a really important thing to say. We're hearing a lot of discussion of gun violence. I live in Midtown. I am an active resident of Midtown. I walk the streets of Midtown anytime, day or night. I ride my bike. I have never been fearful of my neighbors. I just really want to say that. I've heard a lot of talk about gun violence, but I understand that, as a white woman, I'm not particularly under threat for gun violence. I mean, statistically, I'm, no matter where I live, at a pretty low threshold for being a threat, but I've never felt threatened by my neighbors. So I'm a little concerned with what I feel is kind of a hyperbolic response to this perceived threat of violence in my neighborhood. I don't agree that this is the threat that people are saying it is. Not that there aren't lots of issues in our community that need addressing, and not that there isn't a lot of work that needs to be done, but the community itself has to have a voice in that. The community itself has to be able to say how it wants itself to be policed. And I can tell you that I know there's a lot of diverse voices on how this should be handled, but pretty universally, everybody does not want it to be handled by, being afraid of walking out of your, walking down the street and being stopped by police, when you're just conducting your everyday business.
Why
My
are they
daughter,
sending all the police in our ward, terrorizing?
I've never been
That's
stopped
not right. We
myself
need
during this.
somebody, man, to represent us.
Although I was stopped on 587 before this, the increase really started, and that was pretty disturbing, I have to say, by troopers. But I keep coming back to that, this is not the way that the community wants to respond to this particular problem. It's not that they don't understand that there are problems, but where is their voice in this? I've witnessed cars get stopped and people drive off seconds later, minutes later. I don't understand how that's possible. I mean, to me, that's clearly profiling. If you're getting stopped and people are just driving off moments later, if cars are getting searched and tickets aren't being issued as a result of that search, I don't understand how that's possible. And, and in the frequency that I'm seeing it, and I see it as a resident of Ward 4, I literally have seen it. Me and my daughter counted 10 police cars on a walk to Boyce's. I live on Down Street. That is really excessive. So I'm a little passionate about this issue because this is my neighborhood and I really don't like what I'm seeing in my neighborhood. So I'm gonna, pass my, I'm gonna yield my time and say thank you. But, I really would like to see some kind of resolution to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose, for your comments. I think up next we have Nick. Nick, I think you unmuted for a second, and then I think you. Nick, I think you're good to go if I think you're unmuted.
I think it's his sound. It's his audio. You might want to come back to him.
All right. Alderwoman Worthington, while you're here, I want to thank you for coming and thank you for the work that you've been doing on the police subcommittee of the Common Council and helping to pass the updated bylaws and guidelines that our police commission are now working on and working from. And so I just want to, while you were there, thank you for that. And I don't know if there's anything in particular that you would like to share this evening at this point.
Thank you for that, Mayor. I appreciate that. So I'm on the call. I want to hear, just from the public what they're saying. I do agree that there may be some over-policing going on. I understand why the increase of policing is in particularly Ward 4. I do understand it. However,
They don't have potholes in them.
So, however, I also understand that the perspective that the residents here have in Ward 4 is that they're being over-policed. There's got to be, I don't know what kind of mechanisms can be put in place where, besides this forum that we're having tonight, which is, a good thing, but where the public could be made aware that the reason for the increase in policing is due to the violence that's happening. But at the same time, there's stopping people for minor traffic violations, which end up in a search of the entire car and making people get out of their cars and things of that nature, that's traumatic. That's traumatic, especially if they end up leaving with no ticket. So I just don't know where the balance is. Everything that everyone is saying tonight, I've heard personally from people. Some I agree with, some I don't. I like that we're trying to clean up this violence, especially in Ward 4. Mayor Noble, I've said this to you time and time again. I feel like we have a stain on Ward 4. I feel like we are often neglected. This is not anything that people that's on this call have not heard from me. And maybe it's my own perception, but that's the way it seems. And I've lived in this community for 30 some odd years. I love my community. I love my neighbors, and everybody cannot be wrong. Everyone cannot be wrong. And it's time that we take a good, deep look at this and see what's going on, particularly in Ward 4 in the city of Kingston.
All right. Thank you, Rita, for that. At this point, Nick, I don't know if you want to try your audio again, but we couldn't hear you. You were unmuted, but it seemed like your audio wasn't working. So I don't know if you want to try one more time before we move on. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting to hear you, Nick. But if you want to just write your comments into the chat, we'll at least be able to see those. That would be great. And so I now want to be able to open it up to any of the callers that we have on the line. It looks like we have a little over a dozen and a half or 2 dozen callers. And so if there's any callers that would like to speak, you could unmute yourself and then I can call on the caller. We'll at least try to call on them one at a time so we don't all speak over one another. So are there any callers that would like to provide comments to us?
I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
I don't know exactly what is going on. I'm sorry for getting late. I just got home from work. But what exactly are you proposing to reduce what?
So Peter, you definitely missed the introduction. So tonight is an opportunity for the police commission to be able to hear from residents in Ward 4 and the surrounding community that over the last 4 weeks have had experiences with either members of the state police or the Kingston Police Department as part of our this 10-week long initiative that was started to reduce the the crime in the community. And so the police commission tonight isn't making any decisions about reducing anything or increasing anything. We're just hearing from feedback from residents so that we can improve the work that our officers are doing, and also to be able to provide feedback to state police who obviously are working with us with this initiative. But as state police, we all know that they have jurisdiction in every community in every part of New York State. And so they could be whether they're here or not. The impact from people about their experiences with this in Ward 4. And so do you have any experiences that you'd like to share about your experiences in Ward 4 with this policing initiative?
I really don't have much to share other than to say that I have 2 bullet holes in my house, and the one bullet is still there. I mean, that's an issue to me. To me, it is. And anybody that wants can come over and look at it. I haven't really had a lot of problems here. I've lived here for 65 years. I've represented the district for 30 years. And I never had issues before with the police, the firemen, or anybody else. And I'm just curious as to what exactly are we talking about when we talk about having problems with the police department.
Yeah, and so tonight we're just taking feedback, and so thank you for that feedback. It's noted. And so up next, I think Nick actually called in, so I think Nick, do you want to see if you can now talk over the phone? Yeah, we're not currently hearing you. I think one of the issues with the callers, I think star 6 or star 7 on the phone. Why don't you see if that works? And if not, Minya, can you, you may have to potentially unmute the callers for folks to be able to talk to us.
May I respond to the last gentleman?
I'd rather not have a back and forth response, Michael, if that's okay. Tonight is really just a
that's
kind of
okay.
a forum
Yeah, that's
for
fair
folks.
enough.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's patience, trying to use this all technology. I wish we were all in common council chambers just having this discussion. But at this point, we're going to try to unmute the callers. And while we're working on that, if you are on here this evening and didn't have an opportunity to tell us your story, the police commissioners actually have an email address that goes to all of our commissioners. That is policecommissioners@kingston-ny.gov. We actually have a website that also on the City of Kingston page, which is kingston-ny.gov/police-commission. Where you can go ahead and send us your comments and your feedback, and to be able to tell us your stories. Again, this initiative, while it's kind of a 10-week time period, we recognize, as a commission and as a city that there is a lot of additional work that we need to do. And so one of the things that we announced is that we have a reimagining public safety task force that is in the process of being established. This is in an effort to further the community dialogue around policing and reimagining how we do our policing. And this is something that we, have to do as part of the governor's executive order, but it's something we want to do to be able to go ahead and make sure that we have an opportunity to really take a moment to reflect on policing and how policing is being done in our community. This effort is being led by Lester Strong, and Lester is the executive director of the Peaceful Guardians Project, which is a project that is housed under the Center for Creative Education, but has worked over the last 2 years to be able to work with our youth and our police officers in a variety of different ways. And so Lester is going to be leading this task force. And so I don't know if Lester, if you want to just take a moment to just update folks as to kind of what that initiative is going to look like and how the community will be able to be involved, and really what is the bigger picture, in terms of really the reforms that are needed.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's at the moment what we've done. Well, I should back up. I think that the mayor has really kind of laid out the larger picture of what we're doing, and that is to essentially figure out what are some of the things that we can do that can make community and police work more smoothly together. That's our objective. We've invited members from all sections of the Kingston community to be a part of it. We have just amassed, by the end of this week, we will have all of the community members who will be participating. There will be 13 in all. And we're going to look at a range of different issues that, frankly, tonight, we're hearing some of those issues that will inform how we create and how we structure our work to focus on the issues that, frankly, the community sees as critical and important. Our goal is to then to look at what are some creative, imaginative, innovative ways that we can begin to make policing much more accessible, much safer for everyone in the community, both the community and the police officers, to make sure that everyone is safe in doing their job and living their lives. So that's really where we are. Our goal is to have a series of recommendations that will go to the Common Council by January, which will then give the Common Council time to reshape and vote on the recommendations that we make. And we, of course, will have public forums where we will continue to inform the community about the initiatives that we're taking.
Great, thank you, Lester. And so again, to be able to allow the callers to be able to speak up, we're gonna have to unmute everyone for a little while. And so I would ask that if you can, mute yourself if you're not planning on speaking on your phone, and or on your computer, so that we can at least give the callers an opportunity if there are any that want to speak. And again, just for folks to know, the Kingston Police Commission meets monthly. We've been doing the meetings virtually like this. Our next meeting is coming up next Wednesday, I believe. And so you can find us basically the third Wednesday of every month at 4 o'clock. So again, we're going to try to unmute everyone. If this goes awry, we'll probably reconvene back on mute, but we're going to give it a try. So are there any callers that would like to speak at this point?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi there. I'm also a resident in Ward 4. I sent an email to Commissioner Bowden just about the importance of having this conversation in context. Obviously, I feel for the gentleman who has 2 bullet holes in his house, but the reality of like guns in the United States and in Kingston is that one of the people that called in sort of spoke to it very eloquently, in that it's it's not just it's an incident. It's about the trappings of poverty. Not to mention the trappings of poverty. There's a pandemic. The wealth gap is the worst that it's been in 100 years. Not to mention the amount of guns in the country is like 3 to 1 to human beings. And so I think it's important to be conscious of that, and how we've basically been subjected, been subjected to quarantining with family or friends and not being able to socialize and get out any energy that we need. Of course, there's going to be more room for interpersonal conflict. There was someone that was killed across the street from me a couple of weeks ago. As Rosemary had said before, I also feel safe in my community. I know a large number of my neighbors, but when the cop knocked on my door at 5 in the morning and was like, "What'd you hear?" And it's like, I didn't hear anything, neither did my roommates. And it was unfortunately an isolated incident where someone chose to use a gun and kill someone. Like, that is objectively horrible. However, I I was not involved in that situation. I am not at risk. You know, and to that one caller who said he has the bullet holes in his house, like, unfortunately, things by the nature of weapons, even your proximity to them, you are just there. You have a greater statistic of being harmed or killed, which is something to consider even with police. Like, there are entire countries that don't arm their police officers with murder weapons. So, and there's a ton of ways to detain human beings. I mean, I'm not really a supporter of detaining humans in the first place. However, there's a story that just came out the other day about some autistic 13-year-old child who was having a fit, ran away from the police. I know they're still investigating the murder, but the cops decided to shoot the unarmed 13-year-old instead of tackling him, instead of using some other form of non-violent detention. When people have access to weapons, they have a chance of using them and then a chance of killing people. So yeah.
You know where these people are calling in from? The BLM protester uptown.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, everyone's calling it from everywhere, but it's, you know, and automatically having microphones to turn on is going to be an issue. But, you know, I appreciate everyone's patience, and, you know, technological issues be what they are. This is a very important meeting, and maybe next time doesn't really occur at the same time as, you know, our bi-weekly meetings that have been happening since George Floyd's murder. Yeah, so I appreciate everyone that's working on this. I hope we can recognize that the issue of gun violence has more to do with poverty and access to resources. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other callers at this point?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Noble, members of the Police Commission. This is Jean Jacobs calling. I'm a lifelong resident all my life, my family, for over the last 100 years. I welcome the presence of the additional security in our community. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let us all remember here this evening that this is one community. There's 9 wards in the city. There are 23,000 residents that all deserve to be safe. Not just certain areas, we all do. I'm in an area, uptown, I've lived here all my life, and I must tell all of you that I don't feel safe as I did growing up and living and a professional here and raising all my children here. So I welcome the additional presence. And if they stop me, I say, yes, sir, how may I assist you? I am not threatened by them whatsoever. They have a job to do. That's their job. And I would urge all the citizens to realize that we need to be protected. All of our children are on the streets now, some going to school. So I have to tell you that by listening to all of us tonight, you're not even touching a fraction of all of us. As I said before, 23,000 residents. That does not count all of the children. So therefore, our safety is paramount, Mayor. Municipal government is responsible for the safety of all citizens in our community. And I urge all of you to realize that. Tinty was quoted in the Monday evening statement as saying, we are asking, I'll close with this. We are asking for all available resources to keep everyone in our community safe and to help us close the ongoing investigations. Our department is well equipped, but the number of incidents has overwhelmed our resources. Having the additional assistance will mean more officers for increased street presence and the behind the scenes investigation. We have murders here unsolved. We have random shootings here. People are afraid to leave their homes. Please, police commissioners, recognize all of the wards and all of the citizens. That is paramount. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
I think we're failing to recognize our privilege.
So up next, I have Paul Kessick, I think was up next, and then again, we'll keep going.
Steve, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my first question is, you stated in the beginning that the police commission is an oversight committee of the police department, and you make rules, you hire, you fire, and you're making new rules for the police department. But there's not one person on the police commission that has any police experience. I said in my comments, that's like building a house, but never built the house before. I put in, and so did a lot of retired police officers, to be on the police commission. And we were told the charter has changed, or the rules have changed, that you cannot have any police experience in order to be on the police commission. Me and many other people I've talked to think that is the most ridiculous thing you'd ever heard. How can you be in charge of something but have never done it? You've never put a uniform on. You've never done the police training. You've never rode in a police car to see the police officer's side. I'm not saying that things need to change, but how can a police commission decide the rules and regulations of a police department but have never done it? It makes no sense to me. And like Gene Jacobs said, there's a lot of people that want more police. This city, I have never seen it so dangerous. I've never seen it so much crime, so much shootings. And I've lived in this area all my life. I was a police officer in the town of Ulster for over 23 years and been a resident of the city of Kingston and the town of Ulster all my life. We need the police. But I just have a question. When was the charter or the rules changed that a police officer or anybody with experience cannot be on the police commission?
Thank you for that, Paul. And you know, with the police commission, it is made up of residents of the city of Kingston, and I think many of our boards and commissions, just in general, we have about 25 boards and commissions, and most of the boards and commissions are made up of residents without any professional experience in those areas. Especially many of our boards that have oversight control, is that they're meant to be, you know, have the oversight by residents. And not those that are connected to the industry or the profession. And so that's just something that with the commission, you know, that these are more in particular new rules that were passed by the Common Council and that we adopted more recently. And so there are, I think, a couple of other callers that are still not muted, and so there may be other folks on the list. Anyone else left? I know that we'd initially gotten through a bunch, but are there anyone left on the callers? Okay. So hearing that, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and to just let you know that the police commission members.
I actually have something I wanted to say.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, but I live on a very busy road where I am right now. There have been 4 shootings in the house, 3 houses down from me. I am terrified to live in my house. I've been here for 22 years, and I now have to sell my house and move because I'm afraid to be in my home. I understand there's a problem with the police. I get that. But what are we going to do about the violence? How is it that I come home from working for 12 hours and I can't even sit in my house because I'm afraid to be shot? Because 3 houses down from me, that house has been shot up 4 times. The last time was on Monday. That house was shot up. Do you know what it's like to sit in your home and hear gunshots outside your house, wondering if it's going to hit you or your kids? Or for the fact I can't have my grandson stay at my house. I can't have my older children here after dark because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to live in my home. This is a problem. I'm 22 years I've lived here. I pay taxes here and I love my home. But 3 houses down because of 1 home on this street, I have to leave my house. Does that seem fair to everybody who's pissed off about the cops being there? Does it seem fair that I don't get to live in peace? I have no safe haven in my home. I am supposed to be able to come to my house and feel safe. And you know what? I can't do that. I cannot do that anymore because God forbid one of those stray bullets comes through my house and kills my kid or kills my husband or kills me. This is what people aren't really thinking about, is the fact this is dangerous. I'm sorry to be angry, but after 22 years of being here, the fact that I can't feel safe in my own environment is very upsetting and very disturbing.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that I can speak for everyone on the police commission, and I believe everyone on this call, is that we all as a community want to be able to feel safe. And it's our #1 priority. And it's something that we're working towards. And we want to be able to have these community conversations so that we can increase our public safety and make sure that we're doing it in a way that's as effective as possible. And so I appreciate everyone, sharing your thoughts tonight. And again, I would encourage you to join us at our police commission meetings, as well as to follow the work of our Reimagining Public Safety Task Force, as well as the public forums that we're going to be having over the next couple of months to really look at how we can police our community better and more effectively, with the community, in partnership with us. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and we will, again, we want to be able to continue these conversations. So thank you.